Good evening, everybody. Diddy, day 19. And today was kind of crazy. Kind of crazy. Kind of crazy. Lady Lawgic, you should close the door. You probably should close the door. You should. I'm just saying, no, it's just tales of violence and just whatever. All right. All right. I don't want to. I'm not gonna do it the way I've been doing. I'm gonna do it a little bit differently. I want to focus on the main parts of what we got out of today. Is we got some crazy testimony from a woman who, when you're listening to her, you will think to yourself, she's clearly a very intelligent woman who is so stupid. Like, how stupid can you be? Like, when she was telling her tale over, I'll give you an example. Okay. She read through this text war that happened between her and Diddy in December of 2023. We're going to start there. We're going to start with her text war with Diddy. And she's all upset because she basically read about, she's feeling as if he's using her for these hotel nights and for his crazy fetishes and all that stuff. And meanwhile, she knew going in, she knew from day one, like when he met her, he's like, I'm going to have a ton of girlfriends. It's not going to be just one girl. It's not going to be just you. And she said she was willing to accept that. But what she did not like is that she felt as if she was continually the appetizer for some other girl to be the main course. By that, I mean that when it came to the romance and going on trips and stuff like that, that part would go to the other girl. But her role became something which became exclusively that she was basically the one that he would treat like the way no girl wants to be treated, right? So through what the state will have us say is being trafficked. And she's like, if I'm getting like the other parts of it, I'm going on yachts, I'm going to the Bahamas and stuff like that, and then I'm doing this also, that's one thing. But she started to feel as if like her role was exclusively just the hard part of being his girlfriend without any of the good part of his girlfriend. And she was intelligent enough to realize, I think she's probably smarter than Cassie. She was intelligent enough to realize like what was going on and the purpose that Diddy had slotted her for. And she saw through his love bombing. That she knew that the way this song and dance goes is that when she complains about it, he starts getting, either he gaslights her and says, you're crazy, that's not what I want, you're the one who picked this guy, you wanted this guy. And she's like, no, you're gaslighting me, that's ridiculous, everything we do is about fulfilling your personal fetish. None of this is what I want, I don't want any of this. And all of this is helpful to the state to basically say, I don't want this, I don't want this. On the other hand, she regularly and continually describes it as duties of her girlfriend. She even now, and when she's telling the story, look, and some people, when they're telling a story over, they will tell it over in present tense, right? If you ever hear when people are telling a story, sometimes they'll be like, so they'll tell it over in past tense, and sometimes they'll tell it over in present tense. What do I mean by that? So you could tell a story over saying, so then I went to get the car, and when I saw that the car was not in the lot, and then I was freaking out. So I run down to the manager, something like that. That's all words that are past tense. Or else you could tell a story in present tense, which is more like, so now I go up to the lot and I'm looking around the lot. And what do I see there? I'm like, where's my car? I don't see my car. So I'm freaking, and I go running downstairs, and now I'm looking face to face with this sweaty manager, and you can tell it over in present tense, and that's a perfectly fine way of telling a story. In fact, it's often a preferable way of telling a story. So now, when she refers to Diddy as my partner every time she's talking about the relationship, she's like, this is what I do for my partner. So it sounds as if very much like she's telling over, like, to this day, she thinks of Diddy as her partner. Like that even now while she's sitting there. Or it could be that she's telling her story over in present tense. But it really doesn't sound it really doesn't sound like that. It sounds like she still thinks of him as my partner. So, and when she's so Maureen Comey, who's doing the direct testimony, she had her read over through the text war. And I put out a short today where I was talking about how this testimony of hers feels like it's going on and on and on, even though the stories that she's telling are very, very similar in nature to the type of abuse that we heard about from Cassie. Cassie would talk about like a typical thing, and she'd be like, yeah, so that was what was happening, in 2011. That was happening in 2009. And then we probably went like 50 times 2009. Where'd you go? Well, we were in Atlanta, and in Miami, and we sometimes in Vegas, California, and New York. And she'd talk about all different places. But why is that? Well, there's 3 reasons that I broke down in my short today as to why it is that hers felt much shorter. It was trapped into 4 days. So the state knew that they had the courts directed, you have to leave over a certain amount of time for cross-examination, and she is leaving Friday. So you got to be done. You got to be done. So there was the fact that she was uber pregnant when she took the stand. She ended up popping out a baby, I think, a week later or so. So, and she looked like she could have given birth right there. She looked like her water got broken right there on the stand. So they were like, we're not going to bring her back in here when she's on maternity leave. So you got to get it done now. And they did. So that could be part of it. It could be that her memory is far less distinct because the most recent interaction she had with him was pretty much 2018. Certainly a physical interaction was 2018. So even though the duration of her relationship was 11 years, contrasted with Jane, who's got a 3-year relationship, but her 11 years is, you try walking through what happened to you between 2007 2018. A lot of stuff gets forgotten, good and terrible. It gets forgotten, and especially if you're trying to forget it, which she was. She testified how she was like trying to dissociate from a lot of that event. So it's natural and expected that she's not going to have like some running diary. With Jane, I feel as if every date she went on, we had to go through like an hour and a half. Oh, tell us what happened then on your date, and then where'd you go? It's like, oh, and how was the lobster? Was it good? Was it good? It was a little tender. Such detail that it's just like, oh my god, shoot. And then the texts, line by line by line by line of reading text and reading text. There's just the. So even though she has a 3-year relationship, which is obviously not a shorty, but by contrast to 11 years, it's pretty short. So it's been much more drawn out. And Cassie sounds as if she sort of harbors some sort of warm feeling for Diddy. This guy, I just want to say this guy must have, I don't know if it's because of the allure of the fact that he's Diddy, and that almost certainly plays into it, which the fact that the star power might make it difficult for other guys to compete with, even other rappers. It makes it difficult for them to compete with because he's not just a rapper, he's Diddy. So perhaps that lends itself to the allure. But I'm going to tell you this guy must have such grade A game. And you can take that as a compliment. You could take it as an insult that he's a player, whatever it is. He must have grade A game because these women who he degrades and destroys and breaks, literally breaks them emotionally into fragile shells, from both Cassie and Jane. Both of these women were so broken by him that they contemplated self-deletion. We heard about it from Cassie. We heard about it from that they were so frustrated with how they'd been slotted into taking this role of basically being his toy, to be ogled while being degraded and debased with the most humiliating and disgusting fluids imaginable. And these are women who are not trailer trash women. These are women who, if anyone sees these women walking down the street, they would think that is a very, a high class, attractive woman. That's what anyone would say about these people. They look like what you picture, some supermodel being, and holding themselves with that air of refinery. And those are the women that he specifically seems to seek out to destroy and break them and degrade them. And he did. And they were emotionally a wreck. Both of them. And this woman is clearly a wreck because she goes through how in December 2023, she goes line by line. I'm writing so fast, I'm getting like 20% of it. She's reading through how she's saying, you're gaslighting me, you're warping my reality. Every time I would speak my truth, and she said, every time I would speak my truth, Sean would be saying, it wasn't this, it wasn't that. And then she reads on, you're trying to get into my head and it's working. Like she's getting frustrated that he would respond, and it's that she saw her own helplessness to Diddy. That she had such a deep love, she felt such what she interprets as a deep love. I don't know if you call it love. I don't know if you call it infatuation. I don't know what you call it. But whatever it is, that he gave her a bug that she could not get out of her system. And even no matter how much he would destroy her, she couldn't break free of him. She would break free for a little bit, and then 2 days later, after yelling at him, she'd go running back. Anyhow, so in this text exchange, she's saying how angry she is and how resentful she is for the way he treats her. And he starts yelling and goes, charge me. I'll pay you for it. Tell me what it is. Tell me what it is you want. This is in December 2023. How much do you want me to pay you? Now, you have to understand what's going on now. Because what set her off, what bothered her, is December 2023. This is right around when Cassie sued him. And she reads the complaint. And she said when she's reading the complaint, she sees her own story. She said there was 3 pages in the complaint which she could have written herself because it felt exactly like what she was going through. So when she said that, Maureen Comey is like, were you thinking of suing him? No. You think we're going to the police? No. But she got angry. She realized it because she's not, like I said, she's not at all a stupid woman. She's not. But it's like her mind is affected by Diddy. So, and now you can say to yourself, is that coercion? Or is it just, and most people I think would think legally that should not be deemed coercion. Otherwise, he doesn't have mens rea that he's doing something illegal. So, anyhow, and he starts repeating over and over, charge me. Tell me how much it is. So she gives him a number. She says $450,000. Which she said she came up with like $100,000 a year. He was paying $10,000 a year for her rent, which she had to move to this apartment because he wanted her there. Which that's a joke. Cassie got from him 20. She got 30 million total. She got 20 million from Diddy. That's a joke. $450,000. He's a billionaire. That's nothing. What's his reaction? His reaction is F you. Don't ever talk to me again. She said $100,000 a year, plus she had a lost opportunity that she could have been making a ton of money, and she wasn't. So she tacked on an extra $50,000 a year for that. For 3 years, $450,000. So she's like, you made me lose out on everything. All my friends were advancing, and all my peers were advancing their careers. I couldn't have a healthy relationship. I was degraded. I couldn't advance my career for 3 years. That I invested here with you, and so he starts saying, don't ever talk to me again, and he's like, she's like, and he starts saying, you're an opportunist. She's like, you're the opportunist. You exploited my love for you to feed your fetish, and he's like, I'm blocking this number, and she's like, you conned me into, and this is where this was kind of R-rated. Basically explicitly saying what she did for him. You conned me into doing this. Now, this language of you conned me into it many people would try and argue is potentially fraudulent type of inducement, because he was continually baiting the hook. Yeah. Let's go. I want to go with you on a yacht, but first let's do this. And then by the time we're done with this, first let's go out for a hotel night, and I'll have you meet Don, or I'll have you meet Paul, or I'll have you meet Sly, I'll have you meet this guy, and whatever, or Anton, and those are the four main ones we heard about. And then, oh, it's too late now. All right, well, I guess we're not going to go on the yacht. So, and she said to him during this exchange, at the end of it, she said she was going to self-delete. She's like, you all use me, you broke me. Because she had another bad relationship with another individual, which they're working very hard to try and protect her anonymity. I will not breach that. I will never breach the anonymity of Jane. But she had a relationship with another famous guy in the industry. So that was the indications that we got. Anyhow, so she said that she just wanted everything to go black. And he's like, well, I'm leaving. And she says to him, so you're leaving me. I just wanted you to love me. It was so, and she's crying, saying it was so evil, it was so dark. All right. So after she said that she wanted to self-delete, he texts her on December 28, 2023, and he's like, okay, just don't threaten to hurt yourself. I love you. And she says, nobody loves me. You spew all the hate on me. You called and asked me. You called me. You started telling me, charge me. And you kept pressuring me. He even was saying, I'll get my lawyers to draw it up. So, and he threatened, and he threatened to release her tapes. That was another thing that happened here. He started threatening her that he was going to release her tapes when he got angry at her and he was yelling at her, that he got mad that she was asking for money. He's like, I'm going to release it. I'm going to send it to your baby daddy. I'm going to release it here. I'm going to release it there. Everyone's going to see her tapes. Now, she's, like I said, she's a refined woman. This is not like someone who is like, is comfortable with the idea of people seeing her engaged in that. I mean, most women would not be, but the reason I'm saying this is because people might think, oh, if you're hanging out with rappers, like this is like, you're used to basically being a borderline porn star. And she ended up even, she said, forming. So he's gone now. Okay. And for like a couple of months, in January, they basically split. In January 2024, they split apart for like all of like 3 weeks. And during this time, he had threatened that he's going to release her tapes. She even reached out to Christina Coram, and she's like, which is his manager, and she's like, please make sure he doesn't release the tapes. And she's all freaked out. He's going to be releasing the tapes of hers. 3 weeks later, she's back in his arms again. He just reaches out, and he's like, oh, let's get together for your birthday. She's like, oh, you want to get to my birthday? Oh, okay. But then you're going to be going over to, after my birthday is Valentine's, and then it's your other girlfriend's birthday. So you're going to be with me for like 10 minutes, then ditch me. And he's like, okay, so we won't do it. He's like, no. I mean, he asked like 3 times. So what are you doing for birthday? What are you doing for birthday? Next thing you know, they're back together again. And they have a whole beautiful night. This is in February. Whole beautiful night. And she takes her out for her birthday. And the next day, it's like in the morning. The morning comes. It's like, oh, good. Don's here. Why don't you go with him? He's such a dog. Terrible. Anyhow. So, where was we? Okay, quickly. She ends up telling over a story how during her breakup, she goes to Vegas, and when she's in Vegas with a whole bunch of friends, it was some other rapper's birthday. So he has a whole bunch of friends, and this guy's like, why don't you come? And she said there were 2 things that happened during this time. One, she was short money, and a friend of hers, whose name is Bear, I don't know what that means, gave her $9,000. Another thing that ends up happening during this time is she ends up going to Vegas. And when she's in Vegas, she bumps into Anton, one of her regulars. And they basically made normal conversation without letting everyone in the room there know what the nature of the relationship was. But And they're like, and she's like, oh, what are you doing here? Oh, what are you doing here? She's like, we were in the party, and then the party moved upstairs to the rapper's room. And she's like, I was up there for 20 minutes, and I saw Anton was up there, and he was doing his thing that he, his form of entertainment that he provides, because she refers to them as entertainers. And I was there for like 20 minutes, and I left. No, she's like, I didn't touch anyone, I didn't do anything, whatever. Anyhow, when she gets back together with Diddy, so he learns about this thing that she got money from Bear. He's very jealous and very upset. Who the heck is this Bear? And then and they go up and down with the whole craziness going like over the next 3 months. Okay, I mean they break up, they get back together. Every time she's telling the story, she's like, and I'm like, I'm sick of this. He's psychotic. He's ruining my life. I can't stand it. I'm done with him. I block him. She blocks him for like a week. And the next thing you know, she's like, 2 weeks. The next thing you know, she's like, well, I reached out to him because, his mother was sick and I wanted to see he was okay. That's not why you're reaching out. You're reaching out because he's got a bug in you. That's what it is. That's what it is. She couldn't let go. She just couldn't let go. It's really sad. Really, really sad. So, I mean, more text exchanges from late February where she's yelling at him. They get back together early February. They're fighting again in late February. And it's almost as if she walks back into it knowing that she's going to be miserable and just walks back into it anyway. And this is probably a positive for the defense. That, look, she agreed to it. She's not forced into it. Now, on the other hand, during the time when they're breaking up, he would routinely say things like, I'm going to stop payment on your rent. And that was the whole baseline money he was giving her of $10,000 a month. He's like, I'm going to stop paying a rent. I'm going to stop paying a rent, which was basically saying, and this is how the state is going to frame it. And it's really a jury question. This is how the state is going to frame it. They're going to say, so he forced her to go out to this place, gave her a rent she could not afford, didn't let her earn money in a way that, was most lucrative for her. And then the nature of relationship was, I'm slotting you in that this is all I'm going to give you, that you have to be this type of relationship with me. And if I break up with you, I'm not paying your rent anymore. So you tell me, I mean, what? She's a hooker, right? I mean, that's what she is. She's his personal hooker who thinks that she's not. But then when she tries to break away, he starts threatening blackmail. So, and here's the thing for me. The blackmail to me personally, and this is my own personal opinion, and I'm not on the jury, and maybe none of them feel the same, or maybe all 12 of them feel the same way. To me, the blackmail is a very big deal. The reason the blackmail is a big deal, certainly with Cassie. With me, for Cassie, that was like the biggest deal in the world. Because as soon as she got blackmailed, she started doing whatever he wanted. She got threatened that she's going to be embarrassed, or Kid Cudi's going to get hurt, or her family's going to get hurt. There's going to be humiliation. She's like, I'm back. Fine. I'm doing it. I don't need to deal with that type of destruction in my life. To me, if you're Diddy, you have to establish, and you're the state, you want to convict him, you have to establish his mens rea. A lot of people, when they look at this situation, we as humans, we quite naturally will compare it to our own personal relationships and try and see, well, how is this different from what I do, or what my experiences have been? Any of us who've ever been in a personal relationship know that there's often give and take, where someone will have their arm twisted into doing things they don't want to do. The notion that someone can go to jail for that sounds crazy. And maybe sometimes people push harder than other times. Maybe sometimes people push too far. Does that mean that all of a sudden now they should spend a minimum of 15 years and a maximum life sentence? Sounds very harsh. Unless they know that they're forced. You put them in a position that they had no choice. It's not just that they have to feel that way. It's not just they subjectively feel they had no choice. But in order to be guilty, for me, where it's crossing the lines, that this is something that each side here knows is a retarded relationship, and this is not a way any couple works, and that this is crossed from being a couple into being a victim is when you're blackmailing the person. Because no one blackmails their girlfriend. That's not healthy. That's a victim. A victim is being blackmailed. And the person who's doing the blackmailing knows that the only reason they're doing it is because I'm blackmailing them. So now you have the mens rea, you have the intent of the violator of the statute, the intent of the perpetrator. Anyhow, so to me, the blackmail is a big deal. Certainly with Cassie. But over here, while he talks about the blackmail, she doesn't go back to him right away because of the blackmail. It's not like she's like, oh, you're blackmailing me. Fine, I'll go and entertain you and perform for you tonight. No. Instead, she goes to Christina Coram. And she's like, please make sure that doesn't happen. And she's like, don't worry, I'm on it. It's not going to happen. Now, it ends up getting leaked sort of at some point, or a threat that it's going to get leaked. She's some company. I'm not going to go into this whole thing, but some company, somebody calls her up and tries extorting money out of her, saying, I got a video of yours that apparently Diddy had his own setup phone specifically for recording her. And he ended up switching it by accident. His phone was somewhere. He ended up using someone else's phone by accident. He thought he was using his phone. He was using their phone. So a video of her that was like 35 minutes long ended up on someone's phone. And that guy tried blackmailing her. That guy's name is Cabral. He tried blackmailing her or extorting money from her. And she contacted a lawyer. My point is, she's not performing in these hotel nights as freak-offs because of blackmail. So with respect to Jane, I don't think that blackmail is really a factor. You can't say she was engaging in commercial sex because she's forced via blackmail. You can say that about Cassie. You can't say that really about Jane. Which is why when I'm looking at this, I'm like, look, this sounds like he's such a jerk. You just want to throw him in jail for being such an evil guy. But I don't know that he's stepped across this particular line that he's charged with. And for me, that I don't want to convict him in. Until we get to June 28th, 2024, less than 1 year ago. June 18th. I don't know how I got that wrong because it goes into Juneteenth. Because it finishes on June 19th. I was thinking about that when the shit's on us over. June 18th, 2024, which is less than a year ago. So what happens on June 18th? And by the way, when she tells her story over her birthday, and at the end, she's like, the passion, the romance, it was a dream come true, the way he treats on her birthday. And we ended up, she waxes poetic, and my partner and I were making love till the early morning hours and wake up. And she's like, and he's like, so you want to see Don now? Like the whole room was just like, yeah, does it end? Anyway. Before I get into this crazy story, I want you to know this. You want to talk about how insane this situation is. Diddy is paying her rent to this day. She hasn't seen him since September. He's still paying the rent. Diddy is paying for her lawyers to this day. She has a lawyer that's helping guide her here, whose fees are being paid by Diddy, so that she can be brought in by the state to come and testify against Diddy. Tell me that's not bizarre. I've never heard of such a thing before. That the person who's testifying against the defendant has a lawyer to represent their interests in it, and that lawyer is being paid by the defendant. What? What? So this guy is paying her rent and paying her lawyer now. Like he's going to bill for the work he did today while she's telling this story over that may put him away 15 years, and he's paying her lawyer who's representing her and giving her guidance about what she's doing today. This is bizarre. This is very, very bizarre. But as I need to move along here, And when I heard this, I was like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. But Maureen Comey was wise to bring that out, because she's like, don't sit here thinking she's under our thumb, or that she's coming here because she wants to crush him. Her lawyer's paid for by him. Anyway, let's get into the infamous story of June 18, 2024. But first, I need to, as I'm getting there, how did we get into this story? So when she talked about the whole Cassie thing, and when Cassie came out, of course, it's not at all a cult. Well, when Cassie came, and she said in May. So you have to understand, June 18th is when everything went down. But she actually had a couple-week break after what happened in May. What happened in May? The Intercontinental video of Cassie came out. She's like, I'm down in Miami, in his house, 2-Star Island, and the Intercontinental story breaks. Exactly. The Intercontinental story breaks. What does that mean? The infamous video where she is there getting thrown around in the hotel lobby, that breaks. Everyone finds out about it. So she's there, and she's like, I'm sitting by breakfast when this story comes out, and I couldn't eat. You have to understand, she didn't see the violence of Diddy. This is the first time she's seen the violence of Diddy. She doesn't know anything about the violence of Diddy. Cassie, he's beating on that girl all the time. She hasn't seen the violence. She might see him look scary sometimes, but she never saw him hitting a woman. That's the first time she saw him being violent was when she saw the video with Cassie. This is 2024. This is in May of 2024. She's been dating him for 3 years. So she saw that. And all day he's meeting with his lawyers. One of his lawyers is this guy Agnifilo, who's representing him in court today. So they start writing a letter. This is the letter that they want to write, this letter that, as far as like a public statement by Diddy, that he's going to just throw out there as to try and fix this deal. And she reviewed the letter. Jane reviews the letter, and she liked the letter. But then she ended up going back to LA. And when she goes back to LA, instead of the letter being released, he ends up making a statement. And they played the statement. CNN played the statement. So they played the clip from CNN of him making his apology. And in his apology, he doesn't express remorse to Cassie at all. He doesn't mention Cassie's name. He's like, he starts talking about how he's gone through some dark times and the things that he did that he's embarrassed about. And he was even embarrassed about while he was doing it, which that's not true. And that he's getting therapy and help for this. He feels really terrible, and he never mentions, and he's sorry, but he never mentions her by name. And that he's going to turn to God and seek grace. I'm not asking for apology, but I'm going to just be seeking grace from God. And that was like the extent. That was the essence of his statement. When after the statement is played, Maureen Comey asked Jane, how did you feel when you heard that statement? I felt disappointed. Why did you feel that disappointed? Because I felt he wasn't telling the truth. Really? You didn't think it? She's like, no. And then there was one follow-up question, and we get objection. Sidebar. She's like, this wasn't like what the letter was about. How is it different from the letter? Objection, sidebar. So they clear out everyone. And we end up actually hearing the debate. And I was trying to talk to different people there. I was like, I'm going to tell you what the issue is here that I'm able to see, which is, she's sitting here saying, she's assessing that he's not telling the truth. This is where they ended up going. That no one knew. The only people who know this are you. I'm telling you now, because most people are not reporting on the sidebar. But there's actually a little bit of a story as to what happened in the sidebars. So we all get some deeper insight into what happened the day this scandal erupted for Diddy. So when that story went public, he contacted Agnifilo and he puts together this letter. Agnifilo says that the reason that she wasn't happy with the letter, with the statement that he ended up making, is because Jane wanted Diddy to express publicly an apology to Cassie, and he left Cassie's name out. And Agnifilo says that Diddy was fine with apologizing to Cassie, but it was only because I personally advised him not to use her name. That is why he took her name out, because I felt that with her about to testify before a grand jury, that it would not play well. It would not be good for there to be a statement that's being made where he's apologizing to Cassie, where she's about to testify against him in front of a grand jury. So he had to take it out for his own legal protection so as not to incriminate himself, and basically display guilt about something she's about to testify in criminal court against him for. So if you allow, so now you need to strike, the court needs to strike everything here. So, and because the only reason she's upset is because her name was out, but that was out. That's privileged. That's privileged communication between a lawyer and client. So you have to strike all this out. The judge is like, well, first and foremost, so she turns back to Maureen Comey, and she's like, this is all state of mind. We're looking at her state of mind. And this plays into her state of mind is that he's someone who, when he hurts women, doesn't feel remorse. He doesn't feel genuine remorse, which is a great answer. It's a great answer. So the judge is like, well, you didn't object when she said that she didn't think he was being truthful. You only objected, on the last question, so I can sustain that objection. But the reality is, even if it came because of privilege, even if she changed her mind because of privilege, since the point here is to understand Jane's state of mind when she sees that statement, when she hears that statement, whether that statement came because Diddy decided to do it that way or because it was the advice of counsel, doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, she hears what she hears. So it's not relevant. Like, the fact that you were involved there is not really relevant as far as what her ultimate state of mind was, which was genius intelligence by this Judge Subramanian. I want to tip my cap and say everything he said there. I was trying to explain when they took a little break beforehand. I was trying to explain that you have to look into what's her state of mind. Her state of mind doesn't change based on what his motivation is. It's just, this is what she sees. So now this is what she thinks of him. So Agnifilo said, right, but I'm going to have to go, and that means I'm going to have to talk to her about what she heard when I was having conversations there, and invariably, so this way she can admit that she saw me giving that type of advice, and that's going to lead into a breach of the attorney-client privilege. Now, my response, if I was Maureen Comey in this situation, would be like, tough noogie. You can waive the privilege. No one told you not to waive the privilege. You can waive the privilege. The privilege is for his benefit. If you want to just open up and discuss that whole topic and conversations that went down that day because you think it's in your client's best interest, so waive it. It's not like it's to your client's benefit for you to waive it. The privilege is designed to protect him. If it's in his best interest to waive it, so just waive it. And then, go through the conversation with her like that on cross-examination. If that's what I would have said if I was the state, but that is not what Maureen Comey said, because she was winning here. Judge was giving it to her. Instead, she said, you know what? We'll strike the whole thing. I'll restart it again. And we'll replay it. We'll replay the statement that he made, and then I'll ask questions, and I'll make sure that I'm not going to walk down the road here. And he's like, okay, thank you. Great. She's a shrewd cookie, this Maureen Comey. She's a shrewd cookie because she's like, because in his statement, he says, I'm committed to being a better man. I've gone through therapy and I'm committed to being a better man. So she goes, let's look at what type of, so goes, so now let's turn to June 18th, which is just a few weeks after he was committed to being a better man. Tell us what happened on June 18th. Oh, no. June 18th. So I'm going to give this story very quickly, okay? Very, very quickly. Because I went through it in some detail in my video breakdown that I gave this afternoon. So very quickly, what happens is this. Diddy is at her house. And she's even shooting video of the whole thing there, of him being in the house. Okay. And they're all having a good time. And less than a half hour later, they get into a fight. Why? Because he had just come back from Utah. And when he came back from Utah, that she was like, he made some comments about going there with his family, and she thought he's lying. And here's another example of him going off and taking some other floozy on a trip. And she's like, you're going with some, I don't see what interest you have in a girl who's not old enough to order her own drinks, because apparently, she called him a pedophile. And Maureen called me immediately clarified. She goes, she's over 18, the woman you were talking about, right? She said, yes, she is over 18, but she's like 27, 30 years younger than him. And she's like 28 years younger than him. And she's not even old enough to order alcohol. So that's what I meant by that. Oh, okay, fine. So it's not that she was, below, she's not under 18. Okay, fine. So, and she's fuming at him, and he's like, you're crazy. And she took his head, and he's like tying his shoe, and his head is over the counter bar there, and she took his head and slammed it down onto the counter. How hard? Kind of hard. Was there a mark? No, there was no mark. Okay. And then now I'm fuming because, he's basically saying, no, it wasn't that. And I'm throwing candles at him, and I'm throwing glass at him. I didn't hit him with any of the glass, but some of the wax hit him. And then I see that he's basically going into a rage. So I run back into my master bedroom, and I lock the door, and I tell him, leave. I don't want to talk to you. Just leave. And he kicks the door down. And then I go run into the master bathroom, and I lock the door, and I'm screaming at him, leave. And he's like, you're crazy. And he kicks the door down. And then I hide and run into the closet, and I lock the door, and he kicks the door down. While she's in the closet, she changes clothing because she realizes I'm going to have to run to try to get away from him. She went into some other place. He kicked 4 doors down. One of them he kicked off the hinges. He's very big into the kicking, this guy. One of them he kicks off the hinges. She tries running for the front door. She falls to the ground. He grabs her and chokes her. He lifts her up, choking her. She said, I couldn't breathe. He's choking me. Now she's wearing the looser dress, and she had her heels on. She's trying to wriggle free and kick her shoes off at the same time, and she manages to do that, and she gets out the door, and she runs. She says, where'd you go? Well, there's a place I knew where there's a wall I could hide, so I went there. It was like 6 blocks away. So she runs 6 blocks away barefoot and waits there. How long were you there? 2 hours. Was it really 2 hours? You just asked, did you have anything with you? Did you have a purse with you? No. Did you have a phone with you? No. Did you have anything with you? No. So she's there hiding by a wall. In her mind feels like 2 hours. So in your mind, it felt like 2 hours. Right. Okay, fine. Then what happens? So then she goes back and she figures by now he's left. So she goes back there, but sure enough, he hasn't left. And she comes back into her house, and he sees her there, and she ends up running to the patio, and he follows her there, and they start getting into a screaming row over there, and she punches him, and in the face. Was there a mark? No. And what happens? He punched me back. What did you end up with? Oh, he ended up hitting me in the skull and the eye. She ends up with 2 huge welts. She says they're knots the size of golf balls, and she runs off into her backyard. She's got a long backyard there, and she basically ran down to the end of it and then curled in a ball, and he's kicking her and punching her. Very healthy relationship. Picks her up, dragging her by her hair and her arm back to the house, and she's like, when she goes in to take a shower. When she's in the shower, he slaps her hard 3 times, knocks her to the floor of the shower. She saw the injury she had to her face when she was whatchamacallit. He says to her, hey, get some ice on your face, and I'm contacting Anton. one of the entertainers. He starts texting Anton, and he looks through the text, and he's texting from Cassie's phone. And when he's texting Anton from Cassie's phone, he's like, "Hey, what's up?" She's like, Anton's like, "Oh, it's been a while. I've been hanging out with our mutual friends." Diddy comes over to Jane. He's like, "Who's your mutual friend? How do you have mutual friends with this porn star guy? Where's that?" She's like, "Oh, it's nothing. It's nothing. It's this guy, whatever. It's nothing." She's like, "I didn't want to tell him in that time a trauma bond with Stockholm Syndrome. That's why we go back 6 years since getting my husband. Zero contact. He will always have control." Okay. And I'm not disputing that it's true. I'm just saying it's horrifying to see. And at a certain point, does that mean they're controlled? They have no free will? I don't know. How would you define such a thing? Because if so, you can end up locking up a lot of people who have no idea that they're even, compelling you. If she's motivated by trauma bonds. Good to see you, Worcestershire. It's been a while. Anyhow, I need to wrap up and get the heck out of here because I'm already late for my other show. So she ends up basically, he's like, "Get some ice on your face, get some makeup on, do your hair, get your lingerie, again, get ready because Anton's coming over here." And she ends up going with Anton that night. So now he's beating the heck out of her and he's directing her that she's now doing a hotel night. And the whole time she said she felt revolted, disgusted, depraved. And she said to him beforehand, she's like, "I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this." She's like, I don't want it. And he's like, "So I'm coercing you now?" And she's like, "I just looked at him and I just went and did it." Now, some people are suspicious that that's a very weird thing to claim Diddy would say. He happens to say the element that we're looking to get. Some people are very suspicious about this. At least one guy I know is very suspicious. Really? You think he ended up using this lawyer word, "I'm coercing you"? Look, Diddy's a very smart guy and he's educated. So I'm sure he could easily use the word coerced. Could. It does sound like a type of mind game thing he would say, but it is also very convenient. So I don't put it past him that he could say this. I just find it very convenient for the state for him to have said this. Understand this also. I mean, he wouldn't know that that's the element to a crime. So he couldn't just walk into it. This is a stage where he's very paranoid also. With everything after everything went down with Cassie, he's very paranoid about being recorded and stuff like that. He knew the state is sniffing into him. So he's very paranoid. Now, that would not stop him from using the word coercing at this time, because he wouldn't recognize that one day he's going to be charged with a crime of trafficking, because it's a crazy charge to drop on him. But anyhow, the reason this is potentially significant is if after cross-examination, the jury believes her story, this is trafficking. This is trafficking. And arguably, the other stuff that we've seen there, people can make a fair argument that, okay, she's on drugs. She wanted to do the drugs. So she's a grown woman who made stupid choices. If one person in the jury comes to that conclusion, I'm not saying I would come to that conclusion, but I can't say that's a crazy conclusion to reach. I cannot rule out that that's a crazy, insane position to reach. And if I'm saying that's not a crazy position to reach, I could very easily see that 1 out of a dozen people will reach that conclusion and refuse to convict him. To me, that makes sense. But this story, if you believe this story, she's now forced. He's beating the hell out of her. I'm saying you're doing this thing. And here's the crazy irony out of all this, okay? I want to tell you the craziest irony out of all this as I wrap up over here. You want to know what ends up happening here with Cassie and not Cassie, with Jane and Diddy? He can't look at her anymore because he's convinced she cheated on him with Anton by engaging in sex when he wasn't there. And he's like, "I can't look at you. Everything feels broken now." and she's apologizing, and feeling like garbage that she cheated on him when she says she hasn't touched him when she was in Vegas. But because Diddy feels cheated on, he can't look at her and watch her with Anton. So and this relationship ends with her feeling guilt that she cheated on him when she didn't. And this is a guy who's going off all the time with different girlfriends and cheating on her. And she said she started getting therapy like 3 months ago. She looks like she needs a lot more therapy. She seems like a really smart woman who's been traumatized. And I feel my heart goes out for her, because if you're human and you hear her story, your heart would go out for this woman. She seems like a genuinely good person, a genuinely loving person who really gave her heart to complete, like to a demon who just wanted to crush her. And to this day, it seems like something she's likely to be saddled with for the foreseeable future, if not the rest of her life. That she feels that she cheated on him based on a story where she never cheated on him and had to put up with him cheating on her all the time. That's Jane's story. It's a crazy, to me, everything about this is insane. Everything is insane. Okay. This is something I've never heard before in my life. I have like the palest skin of anyone. You look Arabic Muslim. I've gotten Italian. Yeah.
What?
That's the weirdest take ever. Hands One Pack says why you should never be a cuck if it never ends well. Yeah. See, he can't. He's like revolted by her because he feels like she cheated on him. Now she's sullied. I think that was the word he used. And a guy who uses the word sullied, he also would know the word coerced. He's not a stupid man. He's a very smart guy. So, and with that we close our direct testimony. I got to get on out of here. I'm late to start a show. I was supposed to start 10 minutes ago. So, I thank you all for joining me. I'll be dropping more reports. Please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. And there's more Diddy coming tomorrow. Tomorrow we start with the cross, and the cross is probably going to be something to see. So I'm going to let you know how it's going, the tone, the vibe. Is it the same type of tone with like some People magazine interview like we saw with Cassie? It's going to be more aggressive because when they got more aggressive with Cassie, they were having more success. So it'll be very interesting to see that tone and how she holds up. She sobs frequently. She's much more frequently than Cassie. Cassie's cried a few times. She cries much more easily. She's a very like romantic type of person. And it's interesting to see that hasn't been crushed out of her, which is probably a good thing. Anyway, I'm out of here. It's now time for me to go start another show called The Following Program. You're going to be redirected over there. I look forward to seeing you over there. Diddy tomorrow. Till then, Godspeed.